So for our trip to Cebu City, I decided to bring two cameras with me. The Ricoh GR, which is my favorite camera, and this Nikon P330 that I recently bought as a gift for my sister, but I ended up keeping it to myself instead because it's an interesting camera. I found out that the monochrome on this camera looks really good, at least for me. So we decided to bring these cameras with us, and I let my wife use the Ricoh GR, and I used the Nikon exclusively on this trip. Here are some photos and footage of that trip. So this camera was released back in 2013, primarily as a competitor to Canon's S110 series. At the date of release, it retailed at around $380. I bought mine used for $120. And I like the boxiness of it. It feels very light in the hand, and ergonomically it's not the best. As you can see, it has a small grip on the side, and that's it. The aperture goes all the way down to f1.8 up to 5.6, while the zoom range is 24 millimeters to 120 millimeters. For street photography, it does really well, although it's not exactly the fastest autofocus out there. It makes for interesting surprises in the shot that you wouldn't have otherwise had if you had a fast autofocus system. And because the autofocus is slow, you really take your time composing the shot instead of just aimlessly clicking the shutter button. It forces you to be in the moment, even for just a few seconds. Video quality on this thing is also quite decent. As you can see, you've been watching footage from the camera, and it takes 1080p video at 30 frames per second. It's possible to change the autofocus while taking video, as well as auto exposure lock. So I've been using this lately primarily as my monochrome camera, sort of. I've reserved the Ricoh GR for my personal family snapshots, and this camera I use for my creative shots. This camera does shoot RAW, but lately I've just been using it to shoot JPEGs using the monochrome filter built in on the camera, and I think it's pretty good. I think it looks great. You can adjust the contrast, brightness on the filter itself, and the camera also has other filters which you can edit as well. The dynamic range between the highlights and the shadows is nothing to write home about, but this high contrast style, I think, suits my shooting style, so I like it. There are no perfect cameras, however, and one thing that I don't like about the Nikon P330 is the exposure metering on this camera. It gets quite frustrating sometimes, and it won't capture the accurate exposure when I lock it in. So add that to the slow autofocus and you've got a really slow workflow using this camera. It's a hit or miss. In the end, it's just a camera, and while specs may be important, it's secondary to the actual connection you make when you shoot with the camera. And this is what I felt with this camera that makes it indispensable. If you like this short but honest review of this camera, make sure to hit the like button and comment and subscribe to my channel for more reviews of forgotten cameras.